Hey guys, we're checking out Complete Anarchy. The raddest place on the internet, as the youngins would say. You treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO. Come on, dude. I'm not gonna guillotine the janitor. Think about the obvious undercover cop at a protest who I called out and asked him to show me his Antifa card. And he said he accidentally lost it and was being serious. Dear Santa, why do all my toys say made in China? I guess even you can't abstain from the allure of cheap labor. Oink oink, you capitalist pig. Josh. The worst capitalist brainwash is being proud of your own exploitation, saying you've worked 80-hour weeks since you turned 17 on the flex, it's sad. Well, it could be okay if you're working for yourself or working for a good cause, but if you're just being exploited or working for Satan, I guess it's less cool. Reverse Robin Hood, where you rob the poor and give to the rich. It's interesting to think about that the Robin Hood story is a story because it's so rare. Even the story that people like to hear a lot is the hero's journey. People love this story, partly because it appeals to them, but partly because it is not common. And it's certainly not likely. How rich people get rich, according to rich people: hard work, gumption, a can-do attitude. How rich people get rich for real: merciless exploitation of the working class, and birth lottery. Especially those who were on the receiving end of birth lottery tend to be pretty proud about it. Well, possibly can make good money, but in order to make amazing money, you probably need to get creative. How come we are able to feed 60 billion farm animals, but feeding 8 billion people is considered a utopian dream? Because people are always controlled with their needs and desires. Even in the past, like what people did, like they were just peasants working their land, they had enough food, they had a family, and that's it. What else they needed, right? People worked to live. The only way you would have this capitalist dream if you just drive up people from their land and like now they have to sell themselves to employers, and they can't even afford a house. They possibly can't afford food, but you basically have to put them into this system. Probably hundreds of years in the future, we're still gonna have people hoping to get shelter and food. Not because it's hard, but because it's how you control people. Like right now, we can just build endless amount of houses. Well, maybe that wouldn't make sense, but it sort of would make sense to build more than plenty. Yet, it's not happening because houses are an investment. Houses don't exist to really house people. They exist to store value and possibly just live off on some unfortunate renters. In a truly capitalist system, houses would be selling nearly at cost. That is one lever that can really break the world. If someone figured out to just spam houses for like 10,000 a piece. Obviously, anyone who has money would try to prevent that by all means possible. But suppose you can't, then property prices would start tanking. I don't like capitalism and authoritarian structures. You have oppositional defiant disorder. It's in the DSM. What you say is literally insane. Obedience is definitely not a virtue. If you think it's a virtue, just obey me. Give me all your money, right? And authoritarian structures. The thing is about people don't like authoritarian structures unless they have it good with in the authoritarian structure. Basically, if they have a good seat, then they like it. That is a good simplification. Also, I don't like the trend that as a society, we tend to pathologize people who have it bad in life, who could have issues that can be entirely fixed, and it's systemic, but we diagnose those people as mentally ill, as wrong, or whatever. At very least, society should say the truth, that not only they don't care about you, but they're looking to use you as much as they can. And you're not crazy for not liking it. Propaganda doesn't work on me? Yeah. All those cop shows, I saw like one or two when I was younger, and they always get the guy. But in reality, do they always get the guy? Do they ever get the guy? I mean, you basically only see cops sometimes doing reasonable things, actually going after violent people, who should be locked up and should be managed. But other times you mainly see them beating up protesters who are very often protesting reasonable things. It's like, oh no, the retirement age is going up, and then the cops are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna beat you up. And like, okay, what is this? Did anyone vote for the retirement age going up? No one. All right. When people say violence is never the answer, not only are they ignoring major historical events that gave people the right we have today, but also ignoring the crucial fact that the status quo is violence. It was never about protection and safety, it's about power and control. Well, it might not be starting with violence, but it's always backed by violence. Let's even suppose that they don't do violence. Let's say that they decide to go for non-obedience. They gonna stand on dirt that is not their dirt. And what's gonna happen is that the cops gonna show up and beat you senseless. Like, that is not your dirt to stand on. Someone called dibs on that dirt from possibly someone else had it before, and they just kept selling that dirt, and that is not your dirt. The earth is not yours. I hate it when people say I don't like talking about politics, then immediately post some right-wing bullshit about the woke left, while also waving the American flag. These MFs love politics only if it's personally convenient for them. They are full of it, and they know it. I don't think they know it. But people tend to be receptive to messages that they like, right? I think it would make sense to cut down on the politics when you're interacting with other people. But what people like, they don't tend to consider politics. You see, my system doesn't require the use of force, pay rent or freeze, work or starve. That's usually not starting with violence. But suppose we even want to run with this system, then it kind of encourages competition and also funnels competition in possibly productive endeavors. Emphasizing the possibly part. But it's certainly ruthless, with no regard to who lose out. Communist and anarchist, hot. That is how you win over the people. No serious intellectual would ever be a socialist. I'm convinced there is only one way to eliminate these grave evils, namely through the establishment of socialist economy. Yeah, that's a pretty good book, and also a short one. And Einstein seemingly got there from a different approach that possibly many others use, that they just kind of feel like it's the right thing to do. Einstein's like, hey, what is the most optimal way of running an economy? Of course, you can argue that people are competitive, and we're not disregarding that. But is it all they are? It certainly should be more of a democratic socialism instead of a state capitalism. More flat, and definitely more responsible to the needs of the many. Capitalism does not solve poverty. Well, it's not really trying to solve poverty. Capitalism creates poverty. It can create poverty and then criminalizes it. Well, if you just look at history, then essentially being rich meant that you were an amazing person. You were a saint. And if you were poor, then that is just a failure of the morals or something. Even though, very much so, people owned everything. So it's not really about utility and hard work. I mean, the peasant may have worked hard, but the Lord did nothing. So it's mostly the perception of power. How much you can dominate others. Depending on how we evaluate it, then capitalism certainly causes poverty by causing inequality. It also highly encourages exploitation. Relationships are about benefits. If they don't provide that, dump them. This attitude embodies a neoliberal culture that conditions us to reduce relationships to projects for our self-optimization, which makes us approach intimacy from a dehumanizing utilitarian perspective. You cannot pin this on capitalism entirely, but it certainly encourages it to see others as your instruments. A pig is still a pig, no matter how many times you pinkwash it. Cops protecting bad boys at Pride while wearing rainbow badges. But the only reason this is happening is because of money, right? She is here because of money, and they get to have a parade because otherwise they're just paying money, and I guess people just gonna tolerate it. Okay, you gotta have your parade, and you get back to work or something. Humans can be trusted to be free. They can be trusted with authority either. If humans can be trusted, then that would be more of a reason to not trust a human to dominate others. It certainly wouldn't be a case for picking the right king. Conservatives? Political propaganda. Trans person exists in a movie. I've yet to see them. Conservatives? Nothing political here. Movie talks about the greatness of Western society, promotes gender norms and the middle class lifestyle. As I said, people are just receptive what they like, and part of it can be just what is familiar to them. Suffering is like a choice, bro. Just change your attitude and practice mindfulness. Now that old school Protestant work ethic becomes less popular in hyper-individualistic neoliberal capitalist societies, New Age spirituality becomes a more popular and compatible spiritual framework to function alongside the individualistic, free-spirited, and flexible aesthetic of neoliberal political economy. The emergence of new spiritual and religious tendencies must always be contextualized to the social, economic, and political systems people live under. People's inclinations and preferences don't exist in a vacuum. This is the most fundamental principle of a materialist analysis and will help you better understand cultural trends. Systems tend to blame the agents for systemic failings, and the basic blame would be that their actions are wrong. But what we see these days more and more is that the agents are blamed to think wrong in the first place. They think the wrong things. They believe the wrong things. If only they thought the right things and believed the right things, then they would be happy. You are not beaten into obedience. You have to pacify yourself into it. It's always change your mentality and grind your body against the gears. Maybe you'll enjoy the gear grinding and ever. Why are we grinding people in these gears? Economic masochism. Anarcho-capitalist. We believe in individual liberty overall. We might not agree economically, but we would never take away your liberty. Anarcho-capitalist immediately after assuming power. Milei's party presents draft bill to repeal Argentina's abortion law. It is the last-ditch effort of countries to try to up the birth rate in a zoo where most animals are depressed and have no hope. Morality, doing what is right regardless of what you're told. Obedience, doing what you are told regardless of what is right. Don't replace the culture war with class war. Even the word class, I read a book recently, is not that prevalent in American society or in the West. Don't think about why wealth gaps are increasing, funding for social programs keep getting reduced, or wages are stagnating. Remain distracted by obsessing over woke movies and games, please. The battlegrounds keep expanding, and I think it would be fair to argue that the point is not to really win, but just to cause endless infighting. Liberal democracy when times get tough. In a society that profits from your self-doubt, liking yourself is a rebellious act. Yeah. There are so many bad actors out there who are offering you freedom from reality, or just have outstanding claims. And the more desperate people are, the more they are receptive to it. And that's why I'm the person with the highest self-esteem. I know, I can be arrogant sometimes too. It's more like don't take claims at face value. But sometimes even if it worked for them, that doesn't mean it works for you. Like, suppose out there, all the get-rich schemes. Like, why not just have a ton of employees and, like, have them get rich, right? What's the point in this get-rich scheme? It makes no sense. If you had a get-rich scheme, why not just be the greatest business owner of all time? All your employees would get rich. You get so much money. But people are not thinking because they're desperate. But others are grifting too. They are offering you freedom from all the negative things. even though they can't. Well, certainly they can just give you money, but that's kind of what they want from you. Money can buy happiness. This is a privileged statement that ignores the reality that under capitalism, health, safety, and other things that are essentially essential to well-being and happiness are indeed directly tied to money. Yeah. Unless you're rich, you definitely have money problems. Probably out of 100 of your problems, 99 is money. Because at least you would get a lot of free time. You can, even if you don't like your looks, you can change your looks. You can live in a great place. You don't have to work at all. Or work on what you actually like. Even if it makes a little bit less money, it doesn't matter. Even if someone had like some money, right? They would still have money problems because money is the power in this world. Know that there are other sources of power too. But like, let's suppose that you don't like that people are homeless. It's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna build like 10 million houses, right? Problem solved. Of course, unlike what others might be claiming, you're not really making money by giving it away. It's almost always wealthy people that say stuff like money can buy happiness. Money is the procurer between man's need and the object, between his life and his means of life. But that which mediates my life for me also mediates the existence of other people for me. For me, it is the other person. Karl Marx, all right? Capitalism is inherently violent. Without capital, you feel that violence. Money can guarantee happiness. A lack of money can guarantee a lack of happiness. I would love to try though. I concur.